For 7 years, Daniel Cole believed one lie. Every month he wired money home. Every month his cousin sent the same message. She's comfortable. I'm handling everything. And Daniel believed him. Why wouldn't he? Marcus was family. So Daniel flew home, ready to surprise the mother who raised him alone. But when he walked through the arrivals gate, he saw a woman holding a cardboard sign begging for spare change near the sliding doors. It was his mother. And her first word was not his name, but a terrified whisper. You weren't supposed to see this. Daniel Cole spent 7 years building a fortune overseas, wiring money home every month for his mother's care. But the woman with that sign was not the one he'd pictured in a paid-off house with a garden. She was homeless, betrayed by the cousin Daniel had trusted completely. Marcus had intercepted every dollar, crafting fake reports, while his mother hid the truth out of shame. Now Daniel must confront not just a financial crime, but the erosion of a family's trust. The unraveling began the moment he took her hand. Her fingers were ice cold, trembling with a shame she could not hide. Behind her, the automatic doors of the arrivals terminal slid open and closed, swallowing families into warm embraces while she stood frozen, still clutching the cardboard sign. Anything helps. God bless. The letters were crooked, written with a marker that had been running dry. Her coat was threadbare, held together with safety pins across the shoulders. She looked thinner than the woman he had kissed goodbye 7 years ago, the same woman he had promised to build a comfortable retirement for. Daniel whispered, "Mom, what happened to the house?" She averted her eyes, unable to speak at first, and then the story spilled out in fragments like broken glass. The bank had foreclosed 18 months after he left. Marcus had told her Daniel's business overseas had collapsed, that the money had stopped. Every month, the cousin came by with a small envelope of cash, just enough for food, never enough for the mortgage, and a sad smile that said, "I'm doing what I can." He said Daniel was too ashamed to call himself, and she had believed him because believing was easier than admitting her son had forgotten her. Daniel's mind reeled. Every single month for 7 years, he had wired more than $1,000 into an account Marcus managed. The mortgage, the utilities, the medical insurance, the garden upkeep, all of it, he was told, was handled. He had received reports with bank stamps, receipts for property tax payments, photographs of the house with fresh paint and blooming roses. Marcus had even sent a video once, a walkthrough of the living room while a nurse chatted with his mother in the kitchen. It was all a masterpiece of fabrication. The house had been sold at auction. The garden was stamped into a concrete parking slab. His mother had been sleeping in shelters and bus stations, too ashamed to burden him with the truth, believing her son had failed. But here, in the cold echo of the terminal, the truth crashed down. The greatest fraud wasn't the theft itself. It was the distance Daniel had allowed, the blind trust in the cousin, who had been like a brother. As he wrapped his mother in his coat and felt her bones through the thin sweater, a single, cold thought cut through the grief. Someone had been cashing those wires. Someone had built a lie so elaborate it spanned continents and 7 years, and had a key to every locked door in his mother's suffering. And Daniel Cole, for the first time since he had flown out of this same airport, realized he was not coming home to a surprise. He was walking into a reckoning. The money trail was about to lead him straight into a web of forgery, doctored accounts, and a betrayal that would shatter the last remnant of his family. The money trail was about to lead him straight into a web of forgery, doctored accounts, and a betrayal that would shatter the last remnant of his family. Daniel had not eaten or slept since stepping off the plane. He could not. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his mother's trembling fingers holding that cardboard sign. He bought her a hot meal at an airport cafe while she sat wrapped in his coat, still refusing to believe he had not abandoned her. "I thought you lost everything," she whispered over a cup of tea. "Marcus said your company collapsed, that you were dodging loan sharks." The lie was so detailed, so perfectly tailored to her gentle heart, that she had never once used the phone number Daniel had sent in his letters. She was afraid she would get him into worse trouble. Marcus had weaponized her love, and it had worked for 7 years. Daniel took her to a hotel that night, not the house he had paid for, because that house no longer existed. He booked 2 rooms and told her to rest, but he did not sleep. Instead, he opened his laptop and began digging. 7 years of wire transfer confirmations sat in his email. Each one was addressed to Marcus Gaines' trustee account for Ruth Cole. Below each was Marcus's reply, received. Paid the mortgage, bought her groceries, she's doing great. Some months, Marcus even attached pharmacy receipts, property tax bills marked paid, and a few photographs of his mother smiling by a rose bush. Daniel now zoomed in on those photos. The roses were the wrong color. His mother had always planted pale pink, these were deep red. The front door in the background was painted a shade of blue that had never existed on her house. The photographs had been staged at a stranger's home. At 3 in the morning, Daniel found the first bank anomaly. The trustee account number Marcus had provided did not belong to a trust. A cross-check with the bank's public routing codes showed it routed to a personal checking account in a small regional bank in Nevada, a state Daniel had never visited, and where his mother had no connections. Marcus had moved. He had never set up a legal trust. He had simply deposited the money into his own account, siphoned off amounts for himself, and doled out just enough cash to keep Ruth from starving, all while telling her Daniel was broke and ashamed. The sun rose before Daniel allowed himself to feel anger. When it came, it was cold and exacting. He called the Nevada bank, and after 2 hours of security verifications, confirmed the account was held solely in Marcus Gaines' name, with a balance of just $416. Over 7 years, Daniel had wired $104,000, and the account was almost empty. Where had the money gone? The bank could not tell him without a subpoena. So Daniel called his lawyer. By mid-morning, a forensic accountant named Priya Malik was on a video call. She was a quiet woman who rarely blinked, and when Daniel showed her the records, she did not gasp. She only said, "This is a textbook exploitation case. Give me 48 hours and I'll map every dollar." But 48 hours felt like an eternity when his mother still flinched at the sound of a closing door. So Daniel drove to the address he had for Marcus from years ago, a condo on the north side of the city. The condo was not there. It had been sold 3 years prior. A neighbor told him Marcus had moved into a much larger house in a gated community 30 miles west. Daniel drove there in silence. The gate guard rang the house, and after a pause, Marcus's voice crackled through the speaker. For a moment, Daniel heard the old warmth. "Hey, cousin, you're back. Come on in." The gate swung open as if nothing was wrong. That was the most terrifying part. Marcus did not sound nervous. He had grown so comfortable inside his lies that he no longer believed they were lies at all. Daniel parked in front of a 2-story home with a 3-car garage, a swimming pool glinting in the sun, and a luxury SUV in the driveway. Marcus met him at the door with an easy smile. Wearing a polo shirt that cost more than Ruth's entire monthly food budget, he opened his arms for a hug. Daniel did not move. "Where is my mother's house, Marcus?" The smile faltered, then recovered. "Daniel, look, I can explain everything. Come inside." Inside, the house was a monument to stolen money. Italian leather sofas, a home theater, a wine fridge, a vacation photo of Marcus in Cabo on the mantel. Daniel's eyes scanned the room, cataloging the evidence while Marcus launched into a practice monologue. "The housing market crashed, and I had to make tough decisions. Your mom didn't understand the paperwork, so I handled it. I put the money into investments that didn't pan out. I was going to tell you, but I knew you'd be upset, and I thought I could fix it." He placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "I was protecting her." Daniel's voice was a blade. "You told her I was broke. You gave her just enough to survive and let her believe her son had failed her. You took $104,000 and bought a pool." Marcus stepped back, the mask shifting. "You don't get to judge me. You left. You were in another country living your life while the rest of us had to deal with her. I was the one checking in. I earned that money." The logic was so twisted, it almost paralyzed Daniel. He realized that Marcus had been telling himself this story for so long that he believed he was the victim, the put-upon caretaker who deserved compensation. But then Marcus made a fatal mistake. He tried to reassert control. "Look, I can pay you back. We can set up a monthly plan. But you have to promise not to go to the police." The threat was implied. If Daniel pursued this legally, he would face a long, draining battle with no guarantee of recovery. Daniel said nothing. He walked out, and as he drove away, his phone buzzed. It was Priya. "I found something you need to see immediately," she said. "The house wasn't just foreclosed. The foreclosure documents include your mother's signature. A signature she says she never gave. And the notary who supposedly witnessed it, her name appears on 47 other foreclosure files across 3 states. She may not exist. This isn't a family dispute. This is organized fraud." Daniel pulled the car over. The realization crashed over him in waves. Marcus had not merely stolen money. He had used forged documents, fake notaries, and likely a network of accomplices to strip assets from vulnerable family members. And if Ruth Cole was not his only victim, then what he had uncovered was far larger than one greedy cousin. It was an entire architecture of deception, and at its center stood a man who still believed he would never face consequences. Daniel stared at the phone, then at the gated community in his rearview mirror, and understood that to bring Marcus down, he would have to pull every thread until the whole terrible tapestry unraveled. Daniel did not sleep that night. He pulled into an all-night diner, ordered coffee, and spread his laptop, phone, and papers across the booth. Priya Malik had sent him a preliminary file, 47 notarized foreclosure documents across 3 states, all bearing the name Linda Hartwell. Every signature was slightly different, but the stamp was identical. A digital analysis showed the notary's seal image had been duplicated. It was the same graphic, pixel by pixel. And when Daniel searched Linda Hartwell's state notary license number, the database returned invalid number. The woman did not exist. Marcus had either fabricated her entirely or paid a real person to sell her identity. Either way, the notarization on his mother's foreclosure was a phantom. But that was just the door. Priya had also discovered that the house, after being seized in the fraudulent foreclosure, was sold at auction to a shell company named Balefire Holdings. Balefire had purchased 12 properties in similar distress auctions across the region over the last 4 years. Its registered address was a post office box in Reno. The name on the incorporation papers, Marcus Gaines. Daniel stared at the screen until the words blurred. His cousin had not just stolen his mother's house, he had built a system to steal from the vulnerable, then profit from the sales. By dawn, Daniel had decided to drive back to the hotel, but his phone buzzed with a text from his mother. Marcus called. He said you were confused and angry. He asked me to sign a document that would release him from any misunderstanding. He said it would help you move on. I didn't sign anything, but I think he's scared. Please, Daniel, be careful. That message altered the shape of the crisis. Marcus was not retreating. He was trying to cover his tracks by getting Ruth to sign a liability waiver, effectively pardoning him before any investigation could start. The manipulation was breathtaking in its nerve. Daniel called Priya from the car. Can you get me the names of the other auction victims from Balefire Properties? She replied that she had already started, but the records were sealed behind a corporate veil. She needed a court order. So Daniel contacted the lawyer he'd retained, an elder abuse specialist named James Akhtar. Akhtar was calm, methodical, and understood that these cases were usually hidden behind family shame. When Daniel briefed him, including the fake notary, the shell company, and the waiver attempt, Akhtar did not hesitate. This is felony elder financial abuse, mortgage fraud, and racketeering. I can have a temporary restraining order freezing Marcus's assets by noon and file a criminal referral with the district attorney's office. But we need a sworn statement from your mother. Daniel returned to the hotel and sat with Ruth. She was still fragile, still apologizing for something that was never her fault. She had spent 7 years believing she was a burden, that her son had turned his back. Now, the truth was trying to settle in her heart, and it hurt almost as much as the lie. "Mom, I need you to tell an attorney everything you remember. Every time Marcus came by. Every excuse. Every envelope of cash that was just enough to keep you from starvation. Can you do that?" She nodded, but her hands shook. "I was too ashamed to fight back," she whispered. "I thought I was alone." Daniel took her hand. "You're not. None of us are." While Akhtar prepared the legal filings, Daniel began tracing the other victims. He found two. The first was an elderly man named Samuel Wright, whose farm outside Reno had been foreclosed after his son's so-called friend offered to help manage his finances. The foreclosure documents bore the same fake notary stamp, same shell company. Samuel had died in a state-run nursing home 2 months after losing his land. The second victim was a widow, Estelle Nean, who had lost her paid-off condo in a short sale she never authorized. Her signature was on documents she had never seen. She was now living with a niece, too traumatized to trust anyone. Daniel called Estelle, introduced himself, and asked her story. Her voice was thin but sharp. "I always suspected it was that Gaines man. He came to my church, said he helped seniors protect their assets. Then my condo was sold, and he stopped answering." That was the final piece. Marcus had not done this casually. He had systematically targeted elders, using trust and proximity as his tools. He was not a cousin who had betrayed family. He was a predator who had weaponized the appearance of family. On the morning Akhtar filed the complaint, Marcus received a notification that his accounts were frozen. Within an hour, he called Daniel's phone. The easy warmth was gone, replaced by a cold fury. "You have no idea what you're doing. I'll sue you for defamation. I'll make sure your mother is dragged through court. You'll lose everything, and she'll be back on the street. Drop this now." Daniel's voice did not waver. "Every word you just said is being recorded as evidence of witness intimidation." Marcus hung up. Daniel knew that threat was not an ending, it was an escalation of war. That evening, Akhtar called with news that reframed everything. Balefire Holdings was not owned solely by Marcus. The incorporation documents listed a co-owner, Linda Hartwell, the same name as the fake notary, and her address matched a small office suite that also housed a document preparation service notorious for forging immigration and real estate papers. The operation was bigger than Daniel had feared, a network of fabricators prepared to steal identities, houses, and dignity, all while hiding behind the legitimacy of a family friendship. Akhtar added, "The FBI's Elder Fraud Task Force is now interested." This just went federal. Daniel felt the ground shift. The legal machinery he had set in motion was no longer just civil, it was criminal, and the consequences would be severe. But he also knew that Marcus, cornered, would not go quietly. He had already tried manipulation, threats, and legal posturing. The next step might be to vanish or to destroy evidence. Daniel drove to Marcus's neighborhood one last time. This time not to confront, but to watch. The house was dark, and the luxury SUV was gone. Neighbors said Marcus had left in a hurry the night before, carrying a suitcase. The reckoning was gaining speed, and Marcus was attempting one final escape. But Daniel had one more weapon that his cousin did not anticipate. Estelle had a nephew who worked in digital forensics. He had recovered deleted emails from Marcus's church account, messages that detailed the entire scheme, including instructions to a title agent about how to handle the signatures. With that evidence, the noose was cinched. Daniel stood in the hotel parking lot under a gray sky, holding a thumb drive that contained the truth. His mother was inside, finally sleeping without nightmares. The authorities were preparing warrants, and Marcus, once the trusted cousin, now had nowhere left to run except into the arms of the justice system he had mocked. The drive to the FBI field office took 20 minutes. Daniel pressed the accelerator with a strange calm. The liar had been unmasked, the crime laid bare, and now only one question remained. When the cell door closed behind Marcus Gaines, Would it finally be enough to heal the woman who had once held a cardboard sign at the airport and believed she had been forgotten? Daniel walked into the FBI field office with the thumb drive clenched in his fist. The duty agent at the front desk listened for 45 seconds before calling her supervisor, and within an hour, Daniel was seated in a conference room with two agents from the Elder Fraud Task Force. He laid out the documents, the bank records, the falsified notary stamps, the shell company filings, and the testimonies of three terrified seniors who had lost everything to a man who smiled like a family friend. The agents did not interrupt. When Daniel finished, the lead agent, a woman with a stern face and tired eyes, leaned back and said, "You just handed us the missing piece to an 18-month investigation. The fake notary, Linda Hartwell, is actually a woman named Heather Vance. She has been on our radar for producing counterfeit documents in 5 states. We had her, but we didn't have the connection to the auction frauds. Now we do." The net was drawing tight around Marcus Gaines, and he had no idea. 2 days later, federal marshals arrested Marcus at a regional airport as he attempted to board a flight to Belize under a falsified passport bearing the name Julian Cross. In his carry-on, they found $47,000 in undeclared cash, a laptop encrypted with the same fraudulent document templates that had stolen his mother's house, and a folded note to his girlfriend that read, "Lay low. I'll be back when the heat dies." Marcus had planned to disappear to a country without an extradition treaty. He had been a flight away from walking free, leaving his victims with nothing but ash. Instead, he was led into custody in full view of the security cameras, his confident smile finally fractured. The trial was swift because the case was airtight. Priya Malik's forensic accounting mapped every dollar from Daniel's wires into Marcus's personal accounts and then into luxury purchases, the pool, the vehicles, the vacations. James Actor's legal team brought in Heather Vance, who accepted a plea deal and testified that Marcus had paid her $500 per forged notarization. The most haunting testimony came from Ruth Cole, who walked to the witness stand with the same quiet dignity she had shown while holding a cardboard sign. She described the years of believing her son was too ashamed to call, the cold nights in shelters, the day she sold her wedding ring for groceries. When she finished, the jury was silent, and Marcus's defense attorney had no cross-examination. He simply sat down. The verdict came after only 3 hours of deliberation. Marcus Gaines was convicted on 18 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of aggravated identity theft, 3 counts of elder financial abuse, and 1 count of racketeering. The judge sentenced him to 14 years in federal prison and ordered restitution of $112,000. Daniel knew he might never see most of that money, but that was never the point. As the bailiff led Marcus away, Daniel felt a strange, empty calm. The thief was caged, but the damage he had done still lived in his mother's bones. Restitution came in forms money could not buy. A nonprofit that rescued properties from fraudulent foreclosures helped Daniel purchase a small cottage using what remained of his overseas savings. It had a wide porch, a kitchen that flooded with morning light, and a patch of soil out back where Ruth could plant pale pink roses again. The day they moved in, Helen, no, Ruth, as she had always been Ruth, not a shadow of herself, walked through the door carrying a single potted flower. She set it on the windowsill and turned to her son. "I thought I'd forgotten how to feel safe," she said. "But this feels close." Daniel hugged her, and for the first time in 7 years, neither of them was performing strength. The other victims found their own peace, however imperfect. Estelle Ewan's condo was not recovered, but her niece's digital forensics work had been instrumental in busting the document fabrication ring. Estelle became a fierce advocate for senior financial literacy, speaking at church halls about how to recognize the warning signs of a predatory friend. The family of Samuel Wright, the man who had died in a nursing home, filed a wrongful death suit against Marcus's shell company. They won a settlement that they poured into a foundation that provided legal aid to elderly homeowners facing suspicious foreclosures. Marcus's cruelty had birthed a movement of protectors. And then there was the detail that Daniel learned from the FBI after the trial, the final twist that made his blood cold. On Marcus's encrypted laptop, agents found a folder labeled Next Phase. Inside were profiles of 12 more families, overseas workers like Daniel, all wiring money home to aging relatives, all with arrangements managed by a trusted intermediary. Marcus had been systematically cultivating these relationships through church groups and diaspora networks, positioning himself as the reliable hometown connection. He had already begun siphoning small amounts from 3 of them, testing the waters. If he had not been stopped, the total fraud would have exceeded $2 million. Daniel's decision to confront the truth, to push past his guilt and take action, had not only saved his mother, it had likely prevented a cascade of heartbreak across multiple families. The FBI agent told him, "You didn't just close a case, you dismantled a pipeline before it was fully built." Standing in his mother's new garden that evening, Daniel reflected on the distance he had let grow between them. He had sent money thinking money was love, but love required presence, truth, and the courage to see what was really happening. He had believed the doctored photos and the reassuring messages because that was easier than admitting he had abandoned the one person who had never abandoned him. Yet here she was, kneeling in the soil with a trowel, humming a tune from his childhood. The safety pins were gone. The cardboard sign was buried in a box somewhere, never to be held again. And Daniel understood that the greatest fraud had never been the theft of a house or a bank account. It was the lie that distance could not be bridged. The bridge had been there all along, waiting for him to cross it. Daniel Cole's story did not end with a prison sentence. It ended with a woman planting roses in soil she could finally call her own. But that garden was paid for with 7 years of silence. 7 years in which a mother believed she had been discarded and a son believed he was protecting her. The distance between them was not measured in miles. It was measured in conversations that never happened, in bank statements that were never questioned, in a trust that was handed to a third party like a signed blank check. We want to believe the people closest to us will do right by us. We want to believe that when we send money home, it buys safety and comfort. But all money buys without oversight is an opportunity. Marcus Gaines exploited that distance and that trust with such precision that 3 families nearly lost everything before one man decided to fly home and see with his own eyes. The uncomfortable truth is that financial exploitation most often comes not from strangers, but from the people we invite into our lives. A trusted cousin, a helpful neighbor, a church friend. The elderly and those living far from their families are the most vulnerable, not because they are weak, but because they are too often unseen. So how do you protect the ones you love when you cannot be there? You do not rely on a single point of contact. You call directly, and you ask specific questions. You talk to their doctors, their neighbors, their bank managers. You demand receipts, not just promises. And you never, ever believe that silence means everything is fine. Daniel's mother did not need a hero. She needed her son to show up. And when he finally did, he discovered that the fraud was not just the theft of her home, but the theft of her belief that she still mattered. Rebuilding that belief took more work than any legal case. It took presence. It took patience. It took a garden. If this story moved you, ask yourself, who in your life needs more than a monthly transfer? Who needs your voice, your questions, your presence? And if you believe that parents and loved ones deserve more than just survival, that they deserve to be seen and protected, then subscribe to this channel. We tell stories that remind us what truly matters, because the distance between us is never the real problem. The silence is. And silence is one thing we can all choose to break today.